I'll be talking about incorporation of innovative TLMs in our curriculum. But why are we doing it? Is it because something innovative, so you should force it on students?
Yes, so why are we talking of innovative TLMs? What is the purpose? Why? Yes, you have a mic there? Yeah. What is the main purpose?
Students.
To motivate the students. Very good. Anything else? So does that mean that the traditional lectures do not motivate? Sort of. Correct. It means that it is passive. We want to bring in some changes into the method of our lectures so that it is active learning. Okay, good. Thank you. To promote analytic thinking, which cannot happen when you take a lecture. Good. Anybody else? Okay. Will you agree that we are trying to overcome some of the disadvantages of a traditional lecture? Would you like to agree? Very good. Thank you. So the purpose of innovative teaching learning method is to overcome some of the disadvantages of the traditional teaching methods. So with that short introduction, I'll start my presentation.
So this session is, objectives are, I've given you a handout, okay? If you see there is a handout on innovative TLMs in your, I'm sure you have it with you. How many of you have it? Good, thank you. So that you have to learn to enumerate. Then we'll see how to incorporate them into the existing curriculum. Is it very big issue? Is it possible? Is it possible to incorporate these innovatives in our lectures or practicals, clinics, and to identify methods of overcoming time constraints? Time is limited. You can't make 8 to 4 into 10, 8 to, no. Time is limited, but we have to do these things according to So the context of this presentation is the NMC has made a curriculum change and they have included some new terminologies there like learner-centric from teacher-centric, outcome-oriented, global to conform to global trends. The student should be able to collect, analyze, communicate health data appropriately. You should have to give them practices in problem solving. They should be able to interpret and integrate data, also meaning different departments. They should learn to apply their facts. But so many things, words they have added, and we have also to make them into a self-directed learner. So many words are there. How do we do it? In short, when we prepare for a teaching session, whichever teaching session, lectures or practicals or clinics or integrated teaching, we have to also focus on the process apart from the content in which you are an expert. So the talk is mainly going to be the process of delivering what our subject expertise. The process of delivering our subject expertise. This is a famous saying by Yeats. Education is not filling a bucket, but it's about lighting the fire. Yesterday we saw this fire in our student, final MBBS students. He was standing here. He showed how much fire it is there inside him. Fire is there, it's smoldering, we have to ignite it, motivate them, make them do many things so that their talents become evident, they learn more. So our duty is to light the fire. Some buckets we have to fill, but not all buckets, because buckets keep on increasing. So many diseases, new concepts, new treatment. How you are going to tell everything? Not possible. So we have to aim at lighting the fire. Of course, some buckets we have to fill. Can you name some innovative TLMs you have already heard or used? Can you name some?
Any innovative TLMs you have heard of? I think Dr. Sanjeev talked about it yesterday. Any names?
Team-based learning and inquiry-based learning.
Team-based learning, inquiry-based, yes. Self-directed learning, which is a method for making a student lifelong learners. Yes, any other?
Game-based learning.
Some of you attended one workshop yesterday. What was the name? Problem-based learning. So all these are, any other? Flipped classroom, yes, very good, thank you. So all of you are aware of some of these names, and the method that I have used to elicit them is called brainstorming. So brainstorming is a method of eliciting prior knowledge so that we can build up on that in the student. So in the class you will be asking about subject.
So these are names of some of the innovative TLMs. You can go through your handouts and there will be a short description of all these methods. Think, pair and share. You ask the students to think first, then pair and share what you have understood, and then share with the larger audience. Buzz group, a little larger group, there's little noise there. Muddy points. Muddy points means eliciting what they don't know. And I'll show you a method sometime later. Brainstorming we did just now. Rounds. Rounds is when you go near one particular student and ask him a particular question. Going to rounds. So you may have identified some students who are sleeping or playing with something or not attentive, or a good student. You want a good answer. So that is rounds. You go near them. Only thing is you should ask only yes or no questions, because they will be scared. The moment teacher comes near, they get scared. And whatever they know also they will forget. That is rounds. Then concept map also. Yesterday I saw Doctor showing a concept map. I'll show you one at the end. Flipped classroom, peer teaching, seminar, role play, all these are different methods. Flipped classroom works if the student reads and comes. If they don't read, then it is difficult. So what I usually do is first 15 minutes I will take a session, then engage them in an activity based on that. Okay. So different form, a different modified, Then to reinforce important facts, class feedback, all these by crossword, all these are innovative teaching methods. You need not use all of them in your classroom, but a teacher may become expert in one or two of these methods as the years go by. Okay. Then we have problem-based learning, jigsaws. Can somebody read the jigsaw loudly with a mic? Just anybody. Volunteer. I know all of you are motivated. Or blended, read blended, anyone with a mic.
Blended learning combines physical and online learning experiences that give students more control over the time, place and pace of instruction. Technology is a key component of blended learning as it is for students in the real world. The flexibility of blended learning enables students to have more control over their learning methods. They can choose according to their preferred learning styles, watch online lecture at home and engage in collaborative activity with peer groups in college or join lecture classes physically and work up independently, etc.
Thank you, Doctor. So there's a list of teaching learning methods there, and you can choose. First of all, you have to become aware of them and get trained in them. Most of them don't require any big training, just to become aware and know where to use it and which educational objective you want to achieve by using that application or interpretation. It should not be just to break monotony, but also to add some value to your whatever you have used. So coming to how to incorporate them into the current CBME curriculum. How to incorporate? We have to think of, see, we may have many excuses, many constraints, many issues, lack of, so many things are there. All of us are facing the same problem. But focus on what you have. If I see what I have is, I get an occasional class lecture. 1 hour the students are with us. If we are going to spend that 1 hour just talking to them continuously for 50 minutes, then it will not serve the purpose. So convert all your lectures into interactive lectures. As we said earlier, buzz, think, put all these things, maybe 1 or 2 every 15 to 20 minutes. Why 15 to 20 minutes? Because the attention span of most students and us is about 15 to 20 minutes. So if you don't break your monotony, break that lecture at that time, they will go to sleep. And after little sleep, they'll wake up and then they won't know where they have reached. And so what we are doing is just to break the monotony, break the cycle and start the new cycle. New cycle means be attentive, then it grows, important matters are discussed, then it slowly comes down, then by another 40 minutes, another cycle of, you have to break it. So in those times, you use these interactive methods to break monotony as well as to achieve your educational objectives of, say, application, interpretation, all those what we have already. And your same thing you can do in your practicals and clinics also. 3 hours they are there with you, or 2 hours in practicals. Make them go through these educational objectives and they will become better learners, knowledge achievers, etc. Integrated teaching sessions, 2 to 3 hours. Let it not be just one person from each 3 departments coming, speaking and going. Most of the time that is what is happening. So it is not teaching, it becomes cheating. Put these exercises, put role plays, get feedback from them. Then there is what is called passing time. 8 to 4:30, between 8 to 9 after class there will be some half an hour which they spend in talking, going to canteen, all that. So that time we use to do project. So in our institution in microbiology, we divide the students into 20 groups. See, 90 of them, 20 groups, 3 to 4 in each group. Each faculty gets 2 or 3 groups and we give them simple projects. Find out what is your hand flora. Go and do audit of hand hygiene in the ward. Give training to them. What is community? Like that we give 20 projects to them and they do. And this is the, when they do project, that is when they work collaboratively, they team leaders, they develop leaders, and they get to integrate, they get to apply. All these things happen when they do a project work. Then your assignments and whatever assignment you give should be structured for an SDL, self-directed learning. That I'll just talk about it. So we talked about these were on the left were all large group teaching methods and the one on the right were all small group. So these methods, you be aware and get trained in these small group methods so that you can use them in your curriculum for different purposes. And large group, always make it interactive and make it a robust learning session. So why innovative? We started with that to promote active learning, break monotony, to overcome disadvantages of a traditional lecture, to reinforce So every 15 minutes you bring in one take-home message, either in your exercises or in an MCQ, something, so that they go home with that message. Reinforce application, all these you should try and achieve these in your, whatever is there in your hand. What is in your hand? Your lecture, your practical, your clinical, your integrated. Don't let it go wasted. They are there with you for that time. It's big time. Now I give you a small exercise. I will pass one sticky. I will just give one for each participant. You will get a sticky. You have to write down names of 2 innovative TLMs you have learnt and you wish to use in your teaching, and for what purpose would you like, which educational objective you would like to use. Usually in a classroom we don't allow them mobiles, so we use these kind of techniques. This is called post-it. This is called post-it, and this is used for reinforcing important points in my lecture. It can also be used for eliciting muddy points. Muddy points means doubts. If some areas you are not able to understand, not to the fullest, you can write that down, and usually we can use this for our attendance also. Write your name, submit it, I get my attendance, I get my feedback also. And on one side you can ask for I am asking for 2 innovative TLMs. Back side, if you have any muddy points, you can write. And at a later time, you can call these students and discuss with them and, do the needful. All of you got your post-its? Yes. Please write down. I'll give 1 minute to write down 2 TLMs you want to use in your teaching sessions. And if you have how you would, for what purpose, for integration, for application, for interpretation, anything, or any muddy points on the back side. Once you finish, you raise your hand, our volunteers will collect it. You may not have these sticky papers. What we usually do is we cut one foolscap A4 into 6 bits and give them to each student. If we want some activity, we give 1 bit to 2 students. So it will become also a think, pair, share or a bus session. So in one bench, if 3 are there, we give them 1 paper. They will put their names and answer my queries also. Very easy to do. If your students are sitting with mobiles in the class, well, you can have those, Mentimeter, or any other innovative methods. Please submit all your sticky notes. Thank you. Shall I continue? Yes. Okay. So as a facilitator, we have to see that there are student-subject interactions in your teaching session. It need not be between students and it has to be between the student and the subject to convert all your teaching into vibrant, active learning sessions. Need not be vociferous or verbal, can be silent. You give them a crossword, they'll be silent for 5 minutes. But what is there in their minds will come out. Give them a crossword, match the following, but don't leave them just by giving a talk. Next we go on to some stalwarts in medical education, Malcolm Knowles, Kolb's, Garnier's, all these. We'll just go through it quick into their words of wisdom. So Malcolm Knowles, he described these, how to make students, stages of self-directed learner. See here, so initially they're all dependent learners, waits for test to read, waits for instruction. I find most of my students like this. From this stage 1, we have to convert them into stage 2. Stage 2, they are little more interested, inspired, strategizes learning. Okay, this method doesn't suit me, I will do some other method to learn. Strategizes learning, seeks help. They will come to you for help. Then they become, stage 3 is involved learner. They are willing to take part in everything, whatever. They wait for some announcement. See, there's seminar, there's project. They wait for that. Active part, that is stage 3. And stage 4 is ultimate. They become a self-directed learner from a dependent learner. So, to convert them from dependent learner to self-directed learner, Malcolm Knowles has suggested these steps. So when you give them an assignment, okay, go and study anemia at home. So you should tell them also these steps. What are your needs? What is your goal? What does the teacher want at the end of 1 week? For that, what do I need? What are the resources that I can depend on? Otherwise what the student will do is he will just read that portion in his prescribed book and come, that's it. But no, you have to expose them to other human resources, material, maybe go and read Harrison also. Choose and implement learning strategies. What are these strategies? Different strategies. Everybody's strategy is different. Some will study in group, some will prioritize, some will make a map, some will create models. Some of them may be kinesthetic learners. They are all different styles of learners. So they will choose different methods, and when they choose different methods and they will evaluate. So these are the steps that we have to show them off and on. Whenever you give assignments, students, you follow these steps. Then if you do this, then and you give them opportunity to do projects, seminars and assignment, then they will become from stage 1 to 2 or 3 of self-directed learning. So if you don't tell them these instructions and you don't give them assignments, projects, they will not progress. They will still remain the same dependent learner. What does Gagne say? He says there are 9 steps to instruction. Gain attention. Did I gain attention here in the beginning? Yes. What was it? It is not, education is not filling buckets but lighting a fire. So you have to gain the attention of the students by innovative methods. Gain attention, tell them about their object, what is it that you have to study? Stimulate, recall. Did we do recall? Yes. Prior learning, you have to elicit. Present the content in many ways, bars, charts, all that, concept map. Provide guidance, elicit performance in the class, provide feedback to the students, assess their performance, maybe end of posting assessment you should do and let them know, give feedback and enhance retention and transfer. So these are the 9 instructional steps proposed by Gagne, and we can choose 1 or 2 in our class. Then we have the Kolb's experiential learning cycle, where I am giving one example of concrete means they will go with the doctor, they will see a patient, they will take history and do physical examination. That's a concrete experiences that a student has. Then next stage is they will see what is it that the patient is suffering from, differential diagnosis. Okay, they have done a reflective observation of what is happening in the patient. Then they will come to a working hypothesis and a provisional diagnosis, and they will confirm it by various tests, whatever, and then they will do a management and follow-up. So if it is a case of hypertension, every time they see such a case, there will be a rethinking, there will be reflection. Okay, what happened last time? Did the patient get cured completely? What was missing? Like that reflection they will do. And when they do this reflection, that is when learning occurs. When the cycle is completed many times for a particular disease, that is when the learning occurs. It's called Kolb's learning cycle. There are many other examples also. Take our lectures. Every time I would have taken, say, typhoid 25 times. Every time I take the class, I make some change. And I use that change. And then I may think that, oh, that correction was not correct. In the next lecture, I will make another change. Okay? So, all learning goes through concrete experience, reflective observation, abstract conceptualization, and active experimentation. You go see the logbook. NMC says they should do this exercise 3 times. For us, Gram-Stein 3 times. So, every time he does, second time he should reflect what went wrong the first time. What is it that I didn't know? Then do it, correct it the second time. Then third time when he does, he should become perfect. So that's the importance of following this Kolb's experiential cycle. We all become experienced if we go through this cycle. So definitely it's a challenge to educators. A good percent of training is done by a junior faculty. Are they trained in education? No. When we are subject experts, are we trained in education? No. So this education component, that is why all of us are here. Training in education is a must, and even your junior faculty should be exposed to it. And remember, we all keep learning always. Learning doesn't stop. I am still learning. I may be retiring in a few months, but I am still learning. So there is an education component in all our teaching sessions, and we as responsible faculty, we have to be aware what are these innovative methods. There are so many different so many parts, curriculum development, as everything. When you are trained, you will know that, oh, I didn't know that. So there is a word called program evaluation. So some 20 years back when I was exposed to it, I didn't know what this program evaluation is. For me, program is, say, dance program, that program. I didn't know that, only when I went through these workshops, I understood what is program evaluation. And program evaluation is important. Whenever you have doubts on anything, do a program evaluation of the method. Find out what is the problem and work on it. So training in education is a must. All lectures should be interactive lectures. They are there with you for an hour. Give assignments with steps of SDL. Frequently give them projects, assignments. Give them, be trained in PBL, give at least 14 subjects. They will be exposed to around 25 problems. Some kind of problem solving they will. Then information technology enhanced learning, because students are very much involved, or they will actively participate in all blended learning, whatever, all computer applications, whatever you tell them, they are willing. Use that capability. We may have to go a step further and learn some things. But you use it, the students will be happy to take part in e-bridge learning and other methods which is mentioned there. Overcoming constraints, adhere to learning objectives. Don't digress too much. Stick to your learning objectives. Make a lesson plan. Lesson plan should be same for everybody. Your class may be different, but lesson plan. Put process. At this point I will give this. At that point I will take attendance by post-it, something like that. Use blended learning, use technology. It is there, everybody's hands it is there. Get trained in medical education, all techniques. And you must realize that you are there to motivate the student, to light the fire, not just to fill the bucket. Buckets will go on increasing. You can see in the last years itself, so much new buckets have come. So there are many innovative TLMs. It is up to us to use them wisely for a particular purpose in each of our teaching sessions. Change from a sage on stage to a guide on the side, and understand that education has a limit, but learning, there is no limit. Be a good lifelong learner. Okay. To summarize, today we talked about innovative teaching methods in large groups, in small groups. Whenever you use them for these purposes. And you should give opportunity to the students to develop these skills. If you don't give opportunity, they just sit in the class and go, they will not develop these skills. Interpretation, reasoning, all this, okay? So give opportunities, to give opportunity you have to be trained, So overcoming restraints is all about empowering yourselves. You may not use all those methods I gave in that list, but at least 2, 3, and different teachers will use different methods. And in 5 years you will become expert in that, okay? Plan for both content and process. Plan for it, otherwise it will never happen. So all of you know some innovative TLMs? Yes or no? Yes. Are you willing to incorporate them? Yes. And you know how to overcome them to some extent? Use what you have in your hands, and then things will happen, and CBME will come to its fruition. Christian. Okay, thank you. Any questions you can address during chai time.